in person or participate via remote option through Zoom or view on BCAT. Before we get to the mayor's report, I want to note that Councilmember Chamberlain is attending tonight's meeting, however, remotely. With that, we'll turn to the mayor for the mayor's report. Welcome, Mayor Wheeler.
All right, good evening, Council President and councilors. So it's good to be here tonight. Got a few slides for you. Now, so this is our first test run here. How's it working so far for you? Good. All right, Dave, first slide. So I just wanted to, this is something a little out of the ordinary as far as how the city partners with our neighboring jurisdictions and agencies. And this one here was offering up our Public Works and Utilities complex for some search and rescue dog training. And so as you can see from the slide and some of the bullets, 9 dogs were on site performing some site performance, scent tracking, human remains detection. And these dogs are trained to detect the scent of blood and human tissue. And the training that they receive also allows them to work in areas where they have to discover something either underground or under the water. So, because there's a variety of environments that they are asked to perform in, our offering up this space just gives them an opportunity to work in a real world type of scenario. Just get them prepared for that work that might come our way. All right, next slide. Gorst area planning and environmental linkages. So I think many of you have received some notifications, but maybe even attended some community meetings lately. And this is part of some funding that was awarded out to the Gorst Coalition, and and actually to perform the preliminary background work to get some good options and ideas out there for the best way to solve the Gorst issue. So right now, it's just getting public feedback and kind of hearing mainly from the public about what they want to see addressed. I'll put my 2 cents in. Traffic is a big issue. And so I'm, not that I'm going to steer any of these conversations, but we are putting a lot of work into ensuring that we get the traffic moving smoothly. Next slide. Haddon Park renovation. All right, so just take a look at that. That is, it's turning out to be a beautiful park, neighborhood park. Long time coming. I think all of you have been around, but this is something we took on when we identified it as a priority in 2018. Successful at the state legislature level. And then it's just working through disruptions from COVID, from the pandemic, supply chain issues, and a whole host of other things that might come up in a project as historical artifacts have to be examined sometimes for relevance. All of that, though, is behind us. We have a beautiful park. We have a playground structure that's currently being fabricated. There'll be a community build. I've done a few of those. Hope to see you out there. They're a lot of fun. And then that'll put the ribbon on top of this spring, or actually the ribbon cutting plan for the summer of this year. All right, thank you, Dave. Kitsap Lake Park is moving along also. And what's kind of nice, and a lot of folks that are watching and maybe for the first time don't realize, but the lake also is clean that this park abuts. So we've got a wonderful project underway at close proximity to a beautiful regional asset, Kitsap Lake. And as you can see, there's outdoor shower, reservable shelter, open grass play area, fishing pier. There's more work to come on this one, but phase 1 is just about done. We'll be trying to secure funding for new playground and for the installation down the road. And we'll be working with you on that and working with our reps at the state level. All right, preservation work. And so this just gives you a little bit of some timeline, some work that's going to be happening. You can read it on the bullets, new underground utilities, signal at Benita, curb ramps, new pavement. And if you've been on that street, you recognize new pavement alone is going to be a huge upgrade for that street. I know myself living next to that street, and there happens to be a dip right on the intersection of Pennsylvania and 6th. And when anybody's hauling a trailer, it let you know it's happening. So, and not that this project is for me or Counselor Goodnow, who lives down the street on 6th Street, but it's a much needed improvement on a major commute corridor, work for our workforce coming through, and also for us as residents of the neighborhood. So a huge benefit. We're happy we're here right now. We're beginning soon, the week of March 17th. All right. And that concludes my report tonight, Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, I'll turn to our acting city clerk, Ms. Lindsay Victor, for the consent agenda.
Thank you, President Younger. For approval on the consent agenda are the following items. Item 4A, claims and check register, approval of the following checks and electronic fund transfers. Check number 410148 through 410285 and EFT numbers V42950 through V43041 in the grand total amount of $3,781,087.75. 2, regular payroll for pay period ending January 31st, 2025 in the amount of $1,223,956.42. 3, regular payroll payout for pay period ending January 31st, 2025 in the amount of $11,966.02. Number 4, regular payroll for pay period ending February 15th, 2025 in the amount of $1,119,114.30. Number 5, regular payroll payout for pay period ending February 15th, 2025 in the amount of $983.60. Number 6, retiree payroll for pay period ending February 28th, 2025 in the amount of $37,426.83. Item B, minutes of council meeting, February 19th, 2025. Item C, minutes of study session, February 26th, 2025. Item D, confirm appointment of Anna Doring to the Planning Commission. Item E, confirm appointment of Daniel Cole to the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television Citizens Advisory Committee. Item F, confirm reappointment of Kirsty Hertel to the Citizens Commission on Council Salaries. Item G, confirm appointment of Quinn Dennehy to the Citizens Commission on Council Salaries. Item H, confirm appointment of John Brennan to the Citizens Commission on Council Salaries. Item I, the interlocal purchasing system known as TIPS agreement with Region 8 Education Center. Item J, approval of the legislative office manager job description. Item K, the 2025-2026 council goals and priorities. Item L, resolution number 3394 to repeal resolution number 3366 and adopt updated council rules and procedures. Item M, remanding 2025 revised funding recommendations to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. This concludes the reading of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Victor. And it's for those that are following along, the original item J, ordinance number 5509 to amend BMC chapter 1.06 entitled Disclosure of Public Records was moved by the council at 5 p.m. to go under general business, in case you're following along. So thank you for that. Any member of the public wish to speak on any of the consent agenda items? We only ask that you state your name for the record and please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Having said that, does any member of the public wish to comment on any of the consent agenda items tonight? Seeing none? So yes, sir, you go right up to the podium, please.
And my name is Justin Law. I'm just going to read from my statement. So, like 10 days ago, I was alarmed by what I read in the Kitsap Sun about white supremacists placing hate propaganda around our neighborhoods of Bremerton.
Mr. Law,
Yes.
is this on the consent agenda item? We have public recognition coming up in a few minutes.
Oh, yep, sorry.
Hey, no worries, Mr. Law. We'll see you real soon. Anyone else for any of the consent agenda items? And I'm seeing from Mr. Sorensen that we have no one online. So with that, I'll go to the council for a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Call for the question.
Councilmember Chamberlain,
Yes.
Councilmember Frye,
Yes.
Councilmember Coughlin,
Abstain?
Councilmember Robolowski,
Yes.
Councilmember Goodnow,
Abstain.
Councilmember Mochler,
Yes.
and Council President Younger.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. And just for anyone again following along, we had 2 council members abstain. They are both associated with 2 of the potential recipients on the lodging tax, so they went and abstained their vote as a proper procedure. So thank you with that. Next, Mr. Law, we're going to come up to public recognition. As indicated on the agenda, public recognition provides an opportunity for attendees to address the council on any issue not already on tonight's agenda. This is not interactive and the council is here to listen to your questions and concerns. There'll be no public comments as accepted via Zoom tonight because no one made prior arrangements with the city clerk by calling 360-473-5323 at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. Again, we ask that you state your name for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. A timer system will be used so that everyone's treated fairly. You may have noticed that we're trying something different tonight. We're actually moved the podium from the center of the room over to the side. So the camera will be focused on the speaker. For those that want to attend council meetings and wave signs, I talked to the representatives at BCAT and they will definitely be panning the audience during the council meeting. So your signs will be picked up. But out of respect for the speaker, we're asking that the speaker go up to the podium. Camera will be focused on you so you can have your 3 minutes. Hopefully everybody will feel that this is a fair process. With that, I now open up to public recognition.
Mary Lou Long, longtime resident of Bremerton. I'd like to have you stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me, if you would. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, fellow citizens of America. I'm here today to ask a couple of questions that have been on my mind. Last week, or last city council meeting, the issue of diversity and equity and inclusion came up. And then the city made a declaration that they were going to change the title to Diversity and Community Engagement Manager. And that is going to cost the city approximately $118,000 a year's salary from what I read, if that's correct. It's on the paper here. Then the requirements still include diversity, equity, and inclusion, and will be following those particular provisions. I personally have no qualms or no concerns or bad feelings about the word diversity or equity, which is fairness and inclusion. I have a problem with the way wokeism has been applying that particular policy, and it has caused a lot of businesses and government agencies to find it has caused much trouble and expense to the citizens or their company. And I just cannot see that changing the title and keeping the same provisions in place and possibly jeopardizing federal money coming to the city for needed projects, to me, doesn't make sense to put out that money for a position. The city's been running quite well. We have a very diverse community. We have very diverse council members. We have very diverse employees, and the hiring process has been quite good. There have been a lot of reports and a lot of things said about how the diversity and equity and woke people attempt to discriminate against white conservative people. And that is a problem that I have with that whole issue. That's all I'd like to say tonight.
Okay, thank you.
And my name is Justin Law, and we'll try this again. So about 10 days ago, I was alarmed by what I read in the Kitsap Sun about white supremacists placing hate propaganda around our neighborhoods of Bremerton. Their propaganda read verbatim, "Race mixing is white genocide. Stop killing white people." I believe this was to intentionally intimidate, discriminate, and to incite hate and violence within our community. And I'm not sure what actions have been taken, but I strongly urge the city council to swiftly take action to investigate this as a potential hate crime. Send a decisive message to the public to rebuke this cowardly act, reaffirm citizens that the city council will fight racism to its bitter end, commit to continually educate the public about racism, prejudice, and combating white supremacy. All of us must assemble and unite against all forms of hate to defend public rights, create a more fair and just community, and safeguard our citizens from further subjection of violent injustices. Thank you for the opportunity to express my outrage, and I will yield my time.
Okay, thank you. Before we get to our next speaker, I want to mention that, not unusual for me, but I messed up. During the consent agenda, I failed to recognize we had 5 people that were passed to be appointed on various committees and commissions. Daniel Cole, Anna Doring, Kirsty Hardle, Quinn Dennehy, and John Brennan. I believe Mr. Cole's here, and I'd like to wow, that was my smartphone talking. So when he has a chance, I'd like, if we could, Mr. Cole would come up during public recognition and we'd recognize you.
Hello, my name is Daniel Cole. Thank you for the opportunity and the appointment to the position. I'm excited to be working more in the community and learn more about it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Cole. Thank you for volunteering. Anyone else on our commissions that were appointed tonight? I don't see anybody. Okay, so thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Hanson. I'm from Bremerton, and I'm here tonight as the president of the Bremerton Historic Ship Association. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council, and I will not speak to items on the agenda, Council President. However, I will mention just tourism briefly, and that is that we've had a really good year in 2024 on the USS Turner Joy. I think that we're still in that post-COVID era of trying to get things back to normalcy to a degree, even after all these years. but we are seeing consistent numbers, 23 to 24, 25 shaping up nice. We had a good February. And oddly enough, 2024, we had a record October of 1,981 people all outside this area. So we're having a good year on the tourism side. We still partner with our friends in Seattle on the Puget Sound Attraction Council for the last 14 years. It's been very productive to get our marketing reach all the way out to places like Las Vegas this year for Go West or Chicago for IPW to see Bremerton and those organizations represented there. Some years I actually travel with them for these things. But it's the same marketing strategies we've had in the past has been effective. We're trying to always find something good and new. You probably remember the cruise ship will be coming back here beginning in second week of April, all through the summer and into the fall. And that will be sometimes Sunday, sometimes Friday. My team works with them for excursions for their passengers, and we are considered their number one attraction to do while they're here. And we sure love having them. It gave me an excuse to buy a golf cart. What the heck? Well, we actually use it quite a bit. It's helpful to move them up and down the boardwalk. Next program that's unrelated to those tourists, and that's STEM. We've had that program for 10 years. It's one of our smallest programs, but it's one of our most effective and fun programs. So the first week of April, we'll be busing students again down the boardwalk, hundreds of students, at least every other week, bringing them to the ship throughout the school year. That is entirely grant funded. It is all free to the schools. We even pay for the buses, which is very rare. And it's a really exciting program. And if you want to come down and watch, or you want to just go to the boardwalk and watch them run down, I tear up. So it's a great program. We're restarting it next week. We'll be at a school with our sandbox. We have an augmented reality sandbox, very unusual device. Schools love it. So my part of the STEM Leadership Council is part of that. I mentioned FIFA. I wish we had more information. Everybody's saying the same thing. With that said, I am working with our partners in Seattle because they also have faced with the same challenges. And I know that the mayor and other folks locally are working together to unify groups and get us focused and moving as a team, preparing for that. And finally, watch your TV in May, we're going to be promoting Bremerton, and we're even going to throw the parade in there for the chamber. And we'll be running TV commercials for the first couple weeks of May, millions of views a week, and the word Bremerton will be on every one of them. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hanson.
Hello, my name is Robin Weldon, and I am a resident of Bremerton. I wanted to recognize Michelle Moshe. She is responsible for the Smith Cove mural, and it is now on Google Maps. And her amazing mural also puts Smith Cove right on Google Maps as well. Michelle is also responsible for cleaning up a dangerous eyesore that was the corner lot there by getting rid of tripping hazards and removing sharp, jagged metal slabs that have been there as long as I can remember, and was dangerous to children in our community and an accident waiting to happen. So she made it into a place where people can come to. It's a real public place that enhances our community. If you compare this to the 61-foot Evergreen Point 123 market rate and luxury housing unit building that would be going on those two parcels, it is night and day. That negatively impacts our community. It takes away views, it takes away light. And if the Shoreline Management Act was not eliminated by the DCD, then it would not be allowed, because there's a 35-foot height limit there for recreational shoreline. That was eliminated through a Shoreline Master Program rig. isolating one developer's parcels from the Shoreline Management Act, which also silenced the concerns of the neighborhood behind it. If you want more information on this, because I can't possibly read all of this, please go to Friends of Smith Cove in Evergreen Park YouTube page, and you will see the entire evidence trail of rigging by the city of Bremerton leaders of the Shoreline Management Act, of their shoreline management program. And the
Okay,
consequences.
I'm sorry, Ms. Weldon. I just gotta be fair with everyone. That was 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alden Bradford. Hope you'll indulge me in a little bit of legislative philosophy. I think there's a real danger when going to repeal or remove a policy that's been there for a while. And doing that if you don't know why it was put there in the first place. I think we're seeing that a lot on the national stage these days. But in that spirit, I spent a couple of hours looking over microfilm from 1987, back when City Council first passed a law banning the use of skateboards downtown. And I learned some interesting things. It really painted a picture of a city that was scared about this new thing that had just shown up. I learned there were 2 separate incidents that year of young children having to go to Harborview from serious injuries sustained while skateboarding in East Bremerton. And I learned that the law that was passed was really a compromise between 2 factions, one that didn't want to ban skateboarding and one that wanted to ban skateboarding throughout the entire city. And I learned, and this is no joke, this was a surprise to me, on the city council, one of the people advocating for banning skateboards throughout the entire city was our very own Mary Lou Long. And if you'd like to know more about that, I encourage you to talk to her. She's here right now, and I think she'd probably be happy to talk about it. Yeah. But I think in general, fear, while understandable, is not a sound basis for making laws. I don't think that's a good basis for policy. Anyhow, I just like to close by reading an op-ed that I found. This is from November 19th of 1987 from a young woman who'd be in her 50s now, but it's quite short. I'll just read it to you. To the editor of The Sun, I feel that skateboarding is a fad of the 80s. It will pass in time. Kids today without cars or any other transportation use their boards to get things they need, such as food and school supplies. I myself am a teen, but do not skateboard. But for my friends and everyone who skates, let it survive. There is no need to ban the boards. If you do, that will give kids more reason to destroy, vandalize, and disrupt Bremerton. All right, I thought that was an interesting little op-ed. Anyhow, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Prepper. Anyone else for public recognition?
Hi, Naomi Levine, Bremerton City resident. I have 2 things that I regularly come in here to remind folks about. One is bathrooms, which I spent some time on last time. And I still want to remind you that we still don't have enough bathrooms downtown. Although I am excited that there's going to be a bathroom in Lulu Haddon Park, and I think it's going to be a good one. But also, I was walking down 11th and Warren at the intersection of 11th and Warren, which has a similar problem to 6th and Warren, which is another thing that I usually come in here to talk about and remind people that the corners of 6th and Warren on all 4 sides are not great to stand on. I almost got run over by a bus and a semi truck this morning on my way to work, waiting on the corners of 6th and Warren, trying to cross the road to get across Kitty Corner to the other side to walk across town. just because it's really hard to make those turns and there's not a lot of great indicators for those large vehicles to know where to aim when they're turning. And I think it makes that corner really tight for them, just not knowing where to direct themselves. And so if we could install some way to do that, I think that would also benefit 11th and Warren. The other problem I noticed though with 11th and Warren, aside from just some of those really tight turns, is if you're walking down Warren from Olympic College and you're going to cross over 11th to come into town, there's a turn signal there that just flashes yellow when it's not green. And folks who are going to turn right there don't often know, do I wait for this person who's standing at the corner? Do I not wait? And then I'm a pedestrian. I'm like, I definitely can't go, y'all. I don't want you to turn through me. But also at some point, I'm going to need to make this crosswalk. And so it's just an uncomfortable negotiation between myself and a person in a vehicle who can't talk to me, can't hear me, can't interact with me, to be like, why are you just standing there? You should go. And I'm like, I can't because the light hasn't turned and all these other cars are going across 11th and I can't walk through them either. And then I'm like, no, you should go for a bit, but please don't run me over, car 3 cars behind. We need another way to mitigate that communication between us. Some sort of traffic control in that area would make that intersection, I think, a lot safer. So both 6th and Warren, which I'm happy to see that we're going to get some new pavement because I also hear the trailers. Oh boy. um, but some stuff on the sidewalk to make that a lot safer would be really nice. I know the mayor walks the same path as me. I don't know if you've almost gotten hit by the bus too, but it's a rough spot. And I don't blame them. It's a tough turn in a big vehicle too. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Kathy Lustig, and I live in Anatai. I have a few comments to make. Gig Harbor decided to do the right thing and take Purdy out of the UGA. That's what Anatai should be done with, take it out of the UGA. Now Rush Development decided to sue Gig Harbor for Purdy sewer extension to compel the city to allow Rush to connect its 90-unit multifamily development project to sewer. The city concluded Purdy would be most expensive area to annex. The city of Bremerton knows this to be the case in Anatai. Rush happens to be the developer for Royal Valley, the monstrosity up in Silverdale. The former DCD, assistant DCD director who left suddenly last year worked for Rush Development. Both this property, Royal Valley, as well as the Anatai property, the Fisher Plat, were all part of a spot zoning, an illegal spot zoning that happened during the 2016 comprehensive plan. I hope you'll rethink trying to support taking Anatai out of the UGA. It really isn't appropriate to be in the UGA. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jose Camacho, here for myself and Friends of Smith Cove. I have spoken frequently about the top dog developer in town, Sound West Group, because of our learning curve with the Rig Evergreen Point project. I've gone on, and it really, there was a chance the city could have done the right thing. It can be done. They didn't. They've instead doubled down. So I have two. I'm a paralegal. I do research. The Evergreen Point project is rigged, and they weren't satisfied with that. They rigged the shoreline master program, and now that is tainting our comprehensive plan. It gives a bloated value to shoreline development because the law that is valid is feigned as somehow supplanting the actual law. MAP-E, because it's a special favor, completely void. It's been over a year since we were told the decision was pending. That's because the city knows it will walk into a buzzsaw if this goes to court. Gregory Genovese sued Soundwest Group for securities fraud and embezzlement. Larson countersued. This is what Gregory Genovese says about the mayor. We actually are in the process now of working with local government, with the mayor of Bremerton. That's January 2019. December 2019. Again, Gregory Genovese. This is something we did in public-private partnership, as I said, with the mayor of the town, with the city council of Bremerton. He goes on also with PETA. So I'm going to do an oral request for public records. I want to inspect all presentations from Soundwest Group or its proxies to the mayor specifically, to the city council, or any member of the city council individually or as a body, regardless of quorum. Presentations will include graphics, narratives, plans, schedules. And Genovese says it was in coordination with the city. They had a written plan and they worked with the city. When I look at Genovese's comments here, they're public in the podcast, they jibe precisely with the records I have from public record requests. That's, you can see the rigging start. We want to improve the isolated code. It goes on. It pertains to both enactments, which are void because
Thank you, Mr.
completely
Camacho.
perverse.
I'm sorry, your 3 minutes is up.
Just so you know, my public
Thank you,
record
sir.
stands.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public recognition? Go ahead, Miss Watkins.
Good evening, you guys. My name is Sierra Lucas and I live across the street over there at Max Hill.
I'm sorry, could you get a little closer to the microphone? Thank you.
My name is Sierra Lucas and I live across the street over at Max Hill. I participate in volunteer programs for the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention and Kitsap Mental Health. And part of what I'm here to talk to you guys about tonight is I know that there's the homeless and those of us in behavioral health and mental health. And I was wondering if part of the reason that there are no public bathrooms is because of the violence and the crime rate going up. And I just wanted to know if there was anything we could do to help alleviate the situation. Because I know I don't like being bullied. And I don't think it's right to bully you guys. I'm a conservative. And I love our city. It's been really rough. And the behavior is unacceptable on both sides when we reflect poorly on our parties. So it's just something to think about. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public recognition? Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carolyn Stein. I'm the Executive Director for the Washington State Science and Engineering Fair. And while we all are here because we all care about our community in a variety of different ways, I bet we can all agree on one thing. We support our students and we support our citizens. And that's what I'm here for today, is to bring that kind of good news to what we're doing. This year is our 68th anniversary of starting it in Bremerton, holding it in Bremerton and keeping it here in Bremerton, and that's the Washington State Science and Engineering Fair. Thank you to our mayor who approached about being our guest speaker, and to our council members who have judged and always participate, and to you, the citizens, because it's free to you. You can come for free, come walk in, enjoy the atmosphere, see the students, see the goodness, and they are working to resolve some of the problems that we're facing here today. This is a wondrous opportunity for you to bring joy to our community and to do something in return back to these students. Support them. Come say hi at the fair. We're going to have a robot dog. Now, I have no idea what a robot dog looks like yet, but I do know that I have contacted the United States Army, and we had someone willing to be trained out of state, drove down, got the dog and bringing it back. Can't wait to see what it is. You know, it's those kinds of things that make it joyous in our community. And for 68 years, it's going to be at the Bremerton High School and Performing Arts Center. And we need judges or volunteers or just you to come enjoy the time, enjoy the community, see the students, and support something good in our community, because we're supporting you with that same goodness. And we thank you so much for helping make this a very, very special year. So what happens after the science fair? We take our top high school students from across the state to the international fair. That's the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair. 80 countries worldwide, of which the United States is only one country. Those countries that come there don't like each other, just watch the news. But yet at that science fair, those students who don't even speak the same language all speak geek. They all get along, they all do science, they all get it along, and they do it well. I'm happy to say in the last few seconds that I have that we have worked diligently, and I am really proud and pleased to tell you that in the year 2028, the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair will be held in Seattle, and you can bet your bottom dollars that it has to do with your state fair that's been held here in Bremerton, and we will be bringing Bremerton to that forefront. I just reserved 18 hotels in Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stein. Anyone else for public recognition? All right, so before I close it, I welcome feedback from the public on their experience with our little experiment here. Already I can tell that I don't necessarily, I'll talk to the rest of the council. I don't like the distance from the council. And then if I were to do it over it, I'd tilt the podium so you're supposed to direct the council. And so we could tweak that, but we'll work and we'll try to improve. This was just an effort to, and hopefully the people that talk feel more comfortable because your back is not to everyone else. You're kind of addressing, but we'll work on it. So welcome your feedback. If you want to send us an email, it would be appreciated. Okay, with that, now I'm going to turn to Ms. Victor for the general business tonight.
The first item of general business is going to be item A, which is ordinance number 5509 to amend Bremerton Municipal Code, Chapter 1.06, entitled Public Records, and that'll be presented by Kylie Fennell.
Thank you. And if it's okay, I'd like to present from here. I wasn't planning on a presentation for this item, and so I have my notes on my screen. So this item was at the study session, and I did go over it quickly, and I'm going to go over it a little bit more detail tonight so that everyone understands the process that's taken place here. And can everyone hear me okay? All right. So as I mentioned in the study session, this is a request to amend a section of code and to clarify the provision in the code so that it matches the rate and fee table that was adopted previously by council in November of last year. We received a public comment from Mr. Camacho. Thank you for that. Pointing out the notice requirements required when you're setting the rates and fees for public records request. And so to explain the process here, we're going to have to go back to 2017. And I think only Council Councilman Younger was here, but that was a big year in public records. The legislature passed some new state law, and municipalities generally saw this as relief. This was at the time when there were a lot of bot requests happening, and the legislature was responding to a request from municipalities to try to balance that. And what the legislature did is they gave the municipalities several options for establishing fees. One of those options was actual cost. And to do that, the agency determines how much it actually costs them to produce the records. Another option was to have a finding by the city that they were unable to determine the actual cost, and instead they adopt a statutory fee schedule. And then finally, there was a flat fee option. And so following that state law, a lot of cities, including Bremerton, chose an option that worked for them. And Bremerton did option 2, the option that said that we can't really calculate how much each actual request costs. So we're going to adopt the statutory fee schedule. And that was in resolution 3292. And that was done after public hearings. And then the council at that point set the fees for Bremerton's records in accordance with what they were in the state statute. Now, further down in the state statute, it's actually in subsection 4. It also notes that an agency may waive any charge assessed for a request pursuant to agency rules and regulations. So at the time that Bremerton was adopting its fees and assessing how much they were going to charge, they decided to go with the statutory amount, which is what you see in our fees table right now, and has been that way for several years. Bremerton also adopted a waiver in our rules for the first 50 pages. This provision of that state law is in a separate section from assessing the fees. And so the first 50 pages were assessed at 15 cents a page, or however much it is in that the fee table. But we had, pursuant to our rules, a waiver for the first 50 pages. And then in November, the council decided to change the fees related to the first 50 pages and comply with state law and how it allows us to do that. So that first 50 pages was something that was done as a part of the rules and regulations under the statute. And then it was amended. And so those, like I said, those fees were adopted in November. Later, unrelated to trying to set fees or costs, we noticed that there was a reference to that in our code, and Angela brought it forward to me to have it corrected so that the code on our public records matches up with the rate and fee table that was adopted by the council in 2024. And at the same time that we were updating that section, we changed a few other typos. And so that's the history. So the procedure that I think Mr. Camacho referenced in his email and the references to the state law when the legislature passed that back in 2017, the council did have those notices and those public hearings and adopted a resolution and then set those fees for the records at the rate that's in the statute and also the waiver provision. So that's where we're at on that.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the public wish to comment on this side?
I'm Jose Camacho. In the previous life, I was a busy paralegal instead of a paralegal embroiled with fixes in Bremerton. And I used the Public Records Act, various versions of it, various jurisdictions. There's not enough time. I hear what city attorney is saying. I have to listen to her oral recitation. No documents in front of me, no legislative history. My basic issue is notice to the public. For the public to be informed, to interact, to civically engage in an informed manner. So like they count. It's like it makes a difference. Like we have a democracy. We need to be able to have notice long enough to prepare, to ingest, to analyze. So that may actually be all well and good. I wouldn't know. I'm a skeptic. We all should be skeptics. So what we had was an agenda, a study session, and today. And I bet no one here knows what the heck we're talking about. I barely do. I did this overnight. I mean, that is not sufficient notice. It is not a problem to actually act like a democratic body and give the public a week. Redo it. It won't kill anyone. Show that you care about real engagement with the public, not empty ceremony, like actual engagement, sufficient notice, sufficient documentation, legislative history. Won't kill anyone. If this is true, it can be put on paper. Do it over. It's fair and it's democratic. It's transparent, which is really what the whole point of the Public Records Act is. Transparency and accountability. Let's not wing it. I've had enough of the winging and improvising for this private person or that, agenda. Let's be transparent. And I say this as a victim of the Evergreen Point fix.
Anyone else for public comment? If it's on this agenda bill item, you certainly can. Go to the podium, please, miss.
In terms of disclosure of public records, are we making sure that people are being kept safe in terms of accountability and transparency? I didn't look at the agenda. I apologize. There,
Ms. Fennell, did you understand the question or would you like it rephrased?
I didn't understand the question. I'm sorry.
no,
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Having served as Mary Lou Long, having served as a council member way back when in 85, I remember when the council used to have issues come before it for approval. They would have a first reading and a second reading, and there would be articles in the newspapers about what was going on with the city. We don't have that anymore. That's where I think some people are finding that they're not getting informed properly. The gentleman behind me that talked about the flyers that were being put out about white supremacists, hating mixed people. My grandson just told me about that in the car. I didn't see it in the paper, but he said he just heard about it in the paper. So we need a newspaper that really helps to disseminate information to the public. We do not have that. We have a very controlled, slanted paper that I hate to read every morning, but I have to find out what's going on as much as there is in it. And the council can possibly maybe do something to interact with the newspaper to get more information out to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Dave, do we have anybody online? Anyone else in the public wish to comment on this item? If not, I'll turn to the council for a motion. So again, it's the original item is item 4J in your packet.
Move, sorry.
Well, I'll move to approve ordinance number 5509, amending BMC chapter 1.06 related to public records.
Second.
Okay, I have motion a second. Any comments or questions from the council?
I think Attorney Fennell, I'd just like to read the two changes that are in here and correct me if I'm wrong. The previous version under 1.06.060 related to cost of providing public records, as you stated, used to read halfway through, refer to table A, and if the requested record is an 8 1/2 by 14-inch page or smaller, the first 50 page is responsive to a request or fee or charge. That is being stricken, and instead it's saying to refer to fees in table M. There's a subsection 1 below it, and we are correcting a typo that said rate table A, that now refers to rates and fees table M. And the final change is farther down under 1.06.90 subsection A, paragraph 5, for folks following along. It referred to the Public Disclosure Act, which is a typo. It is obviously the Public Records Act, and we're correcting that. So it's just those 3 small corrections for this ordinance. Is that correct? Excellent.
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for staff for catching this and updating it for our due diligence.
Okay, Ms. Mochler, any questions or comments?
I thought Attorney Fennell's point was well made, which was we have a separate part of the budget workshops every October and November where we only look at rates and fees. And we have a public here, we go through it in a workshop, we have it in public. There's ample public notice for that. And then the whole budget as a whole is then adopted towards the end of the year. So I completely agree that there very much should be public notice of any changes of this nature, but there was quite a bit of public notice. Here, what we're doing is our city clerk, Angela Hoover, found a reference in this document that we're looking at here that had 2 typos and didn't reflect the current rates and fees. So the rates and fees have been steady. They took effect in January 1st. Is that correct, Attorney Fennell? Yeah, so
That's correct.
yeah. So they've been there and they did go through that public process. And so this is really, honest to gosh, literally a housekeeping matter. So thank you. Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you, Vice President Revlowski.
I get very concerned when the residents of our city think that council and staff is hiding something from them. I wish this had all come together at one time and made it more clear to the public during our budget discussions what all the rates were that were being changed. I know it's a lot of information to digest in a very short period of time. I mean, we get the budget the same day the public does. Council doesn't get to go over everything for weeks and weeks. I do think these are just very minor housekeeping items on it. But I understand the concerns that some members of the public have whenever it appears that we're making it more difficult for you to get information. The information was out there. I'm glad we got it put onto general business instead of just an agenda item. So I feel like I have to vote yes on this.
Okay, any other comments from the council?
Councilmember Chamberlain has her hand up.
Councilmember Chamberlain, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the member of the public who asked for clarification. And just as my other colleagues have stated, we do believe this to just be a clerical kind of cleanup. But to the point that was made, I would love, I mean, here's where I'm coming from. It's completely valid to ask for documentation to prove that the proper notice was given. And that's just to me, that feels like just standard due diligence. So in the future, if we have cleanups, which happens a lot, if additional documentation such as the narrative provided by Attorney Fennell, if something like that could be included, I think that would be a benefit to the public. Because they don't always. Some people move into the municipality. Some people have just recently become engaged, and I think it is helpful. And we also have new counselors that come in from time to time. So that's just my point. Thank you.
No other questions or comments from my part. Just to reiterate, I view this as a housekeeping item, as our other council members have spoken up. We did discuss this in the public and during the study session. We read Mr. Camacho's email, the entire council. The council met at 5 o'clock, and out of respect for Mr. Camacho, we decided to move it from consent agenda item, which it normally would fall under, to general business, so the public could be afforded opportunity. I felt fairly confident Mr. Camacho would be here tonight based on his letter. He was. We were able to hear him out. I believe the public process was followed, especially for an item of this nature. With that, I call the questions.
Councilmember Frye,
Yes.
Councilmember Coughlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Robolowski,
Yes.
Councilmember Goodnow,
Yes.
Councilmember Mochler,
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain,
Yes.
and Council President Younger.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously. The next item on general business is item B, overview of the 2024 wastewater comprehension plan update presented by Bill Davis.
Welcome, Mr. Davis.
Thank you. Good evening, Bremerton City Council and general public. I'm here to give an update on the city's work on the wastewater comprehensive plan. And this was presented last week at the council study session. So the city is required to update their wastewater comprehensive plan regularly. We update ours every 10 years. The last time it was updated was in 2014. This is a state requirement, WAC 173-240-050. It includes a 20-year forecast until 2044 of improvements and programs to accommodate growth and replacement. And the consultant that we selected to support this effort of updating the plan was Kennedy Jenks. They're a national firm. They have an office in Tacoma. They have a really good background in design engineering, process engineering, and one of the reasons why we chose them was the project manager had worked at a treatment plant for 17 years and then had come aboard to Kennedy Jenks and brought a lot of those skills and operational understanding to developing wastewater plans. So the scope, in addition to updating the comprehensive plan, was to put together some studies for the Puget Sound Industrial Center to provide sewer out there, and then an evaluation of the Crosstown Pipeline, which is the most significant pipeline that goes through our city. The plan has to be reviewed and approved by the Department of Ecology, who regulates the wastewater permits in the state of Washington, is delegated by the EPA. And the city council adopts the plan by ordinance once it's approved by ecology. So the plan will be coming to council sometime later this year. Next. So here's an overview of the plan and some of the key sections. Section 2 discusses regulatory and compliance requirements. wastewater federally is governed by the Clean Water Act, and then there's a permit system called the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, which regulates permits and compliance with those permits. And that's the permit that's issued for the wastewater treatment plant. And it's delegated to the states, monitored by the Department of Ecology. So that particular section discusses that permit. And there's a copy of that permit, which is included in one of our appendices. And then chapter 3 describes the existing service area and describes our system in detail, the different pipelines, force mains in the city, the pump stations, and just our collection system and our treatment plant. And then chapter 4 was a new chapter that we did not have in our previous plan. It was a business risk analysis, vulnerability assessment that Kennedy Jenks did. It included over a half dozen workshops that they had with engineering and operations staff to talk about the various aspects of our wastewater system, and if certain components of the system failed, what the consequences of that failure would be. You know, certain components being more significant than others, such as if they were near waterways or were part of the treatment plant. And that information developed from that analysis fed into the capital improvement plan that was developed, which I'll be talking about in section 8. Sections 5 through 7 got into the infrastructure itself. Section 5 looked at the flows and loads, current and then future based on growth over a 20-year period. And then those population projections, the flows and loads that were developed from those population projections were used in modeling, collection system modeling in section 6. And that collection system modeling allowed us to determine areas of capacity restrictions out in our system. And then chapter 7 looked at the hydraulics and then the unit processes of the treatment plant. And then chapter 8 was the capital improvement plan and the fiscal impact of trying to implement that plan over a 20-year period. And I'll be talking more about that in another slide. Chapter 9 was operations and maintenance and how our public works department is staffed to operate and maintain our system now, and then staffing needs in the future. And then the various appendices included basin plans from 2014, includes planning for the UGAs. Nothing changed in those plans there was a lot of really good information from the 2014 plan, and we put them right in an appendix because it talked about basin by basin projects. And then interagency agreements with Kitsap County Sewer District number 1 and the Navy, because they both contribute to our system. The modeling results are there, as well as the 2 memorandums, the Crosstown Pipeline and the PSIC memorandum. Next. So the schedule, we started work back in September of 2023, and we immediately had those risk analysis workshops early on with our staff. And at the same time, they were gathering information about our infrastructure and doing site visits. And over the next several months, we developed the plan. So that took several months. The modeling took quite a while. We had a lot of information that we still had to gather that was incomplete about our infrastructure that we had to present to them, and they plugged it into the model. And they modeled 6 different basins throughout the city. And then we started to receive drafts late in the year, in October, and then we worked with them. There were several iterations back and forth to develop the draft deliverable, which came just about a week and a half, February 18th, and that was uploaded to the city website. It's been live since February 27th. It'll be live for 30 days through March 29th, so the public can go onto the city website, click on the individual, rather than having to download the whole wastewater comp plan. You can look at individual chapters and appendices and comment on them. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then there's a SEPA review. Ecology, I also sent the plan to Ecology. It could take up to 4 months for them to review. And they're going to have significant comments on our plan that we'll have to address. And then there's a SEPA review that's involved, and then it'll be finalized and then presented to City Council later this year. Next. Okay, I just wanted to talk about some of the key projects that were discussed in the plan. This one, the first one, Oyster Bay Beach Sewer upgrades. And the reason why I'm talking about these specific projects is because they're pretty expensive. But this first one is not that expensive, but it's one that's imminent. And it's one that I think the council is familiar with because it's a continuation of a project that we started a few years ago. And this can, where we took a beach sewer out of service along Oyster Bay. And we're continuing that project north up to Ostrich Bay. So over the next few years, we're going to be applying for loans and hiring some consultants to complete the work of taking beach sewers out of service. These beach sewers that are very difficult to access, that are reaching the end of their useful life, and they're generally they're not good for the environment to have a sewer in that type of location. So the next project is the wastewater treatment plant outfall improvements project, and this is mainly a capacity project based on the modeling that we did. This particular project rose to the surface. The modeling indicated that it's going to affect upstream plant processes if we don't upgrade the outfall. And the project consists of installing a parallel pipe and then installing another deep water outfall out there in Sinclair Inlet. And our operations staff has also observed manhole lids not during very, very heavy rainfall events. They've seen manhole lids come off at the treatment plant, so indicating that it's already started to surcharge. And then the Crosstown Pipeline Redundancy Project, that is engineering and public works staff consider that probably our most critical project that we need to accomplish. It's our most significant pipeline in the city, and I was having a conversation with a coworker about this particular project, and if this had been designed again back in the 80s, that's when it was designed, they would have put some kind of redundancy at the time, and they didn't. So this is correcting that. And then this project right here, the new aeration basins and grit systems upgrade, that is a project to install new aeration basins that are currently under capacity. And I wanted to address an issue that was brought up last week that Councillor Coughlin had brought up. He'd asked if the cost projection that we had done for the future, all the money that we're going to be spending over the next 20 years, if any of them had to do with nutrient removal. And at the time I said, no, this project was capacity, but I actually looked a little bit closer at our comp plan. And the description in our project list does talk about the new aeration basins consist of installation of 2 new stage 4 biological nutrient reactors aeration basins. It is anticipated this project will be required to meet compliance requirements due to the nutrient general permit. And then in the capacity analysis chapter, it talks specifically about capacity. So it's really doing both, but that's not all the money that we have to spend. There's going to be a lot more money than just that right there. There's clarifiers that have to get installed. And then the last project is the P6 sewer, which I'll be talking more about in another slide. Thank you. Okay. So the CIP and fiscal impact chapter, I wanted to talk about this just because it has to do with rates and our long-term forecast and how much money we're going to be spending. The first half of the chapter is about the projects and programs that we're going to be doing that came out of the modeling effort that we did and based on interviews and the workshops to determine our most vulnerable assets and what should get replaced and upgraded over time. And then the second half of the chapter is the forecast, the financial forecast. So we typically our capital improvement plan with real specific dollars that are drilled down is 6 years, but this one is a 20-year. And the projects aren't as well defined. So we're trying to. It's hard to estimate out 20 years, but this is our attempt in this document to do that. So it has the costs, the descriptions of all the projects, and the budget years when we're going to actually try to implement these projects. And the second half of the chapter is the financial plan, and the costs. You'll see if you looked at the plan, you'd see that there's about $270 million that we have over the next 20 years estimated for these projects. But then when you escalate them at 4% annually, it ends up being about $430 million over the next 20 years. And the funding occurs through customer rates, facility charges, low-cost loans, grants, private funding, and also bonds too. And then there's a table there with the rate increase. we showed the table having a 3.5 increase through 3.5% through 2029, and then 8.4% from 2030 to 2034. The question was asked, we have done, split the difference and done, say, 6% or 6.5%? And yes, we could do it that way. So this was just one way we came up with as far as splitting out the rates. There's other ways to split out the rates over this 10-year period. I did want to mention one other thing. Councilor Chamberlain asked a question about when I mentioned an affordability index, and because I had brought up the EPA has an affordability benchmark that looks at a community's median income, and if the wastewater fee is less than 2.5% of a community's median income, then it's considered acceptable. And I used an example of $100,000 just so I could do the math quickly. But the city of the number that they used was 73,000. I think it was $74,399 was the number that they used in the report for the median income of a Bremerton household. And I looked it up on the census.gov. It was the exact same number. So Bremerton is actually, their rates are very affordable. And in 2034, our rate is at 1.43%, and that affordability index is 2.5%. So it's considered affordable. So, and another conclusion that our financial consultants, they said that our wastewater utility is stable and has the capacity for taking on new debt necessary for capital projects or expansion, and will likely result in favorable terms when entering the bond market. The wastewater fund generates sufficient revenue to meet all of the O&M and capital costs. So our wastewater fund is in a healthy condition. So next. Okay, I wanted to talk about the P6 sewer feasibility study. This is one of the 2 additional scope items that we asked Kennedy Jenks to do for us. So P6 is an area in the south part of Kitsap County that's, there's a potential that 10,000 new employees they've projected up to 10,000 new employees in that area over the next 20 years. And currently the only alternative for sewer at that location is a lagoon system at the Port of Bremerton, and that would not be able to serve the growing employee population down in the south part of Kitsap County there. So they looked at 3 different alternatives for us. Alternative 1 and alternative 2 were a combination of taking some flow to Mason County. Mason County has a treatment plant in the north part of Mason County, and there's been some discussions going on with political at Mason County to see if they could take some of the flow from PSIC. So nothing has been formally agreed on yet, but some of the flow could go there, and then the rest of it, when we've reached a certain capacity, we would pump it north up to a treatment plant that would be constructed somewhere around the Port of Bremerton. And then alternative 2, assume that we wouldn't be able to take any of the flow to Mason County, and all of it would go up to some treatment plant near the Port of Bremerton. And the third option was that we would use pump stations and force mains to get all the flow into Bremerton and avoid having a new treatment plant. That was actually the least expensive option, and the one that was preferred by our operations staff, is they would rather not have another treatment plant to operate. So there's a tech memo included in Appendix 8, which discusses that, the scope, the alternative analysis, and all the costs. The other memo is the crosstown pipeline redundancy memo. The crosstown pipeline is a over 4-mile long pipeline. It's about 4 miles long, going from the Port Washington Narrows at the end of Park Avenue all the way to our treatment plant through West Bremerton, by the shipyard, by our waterfront. And we currently have no way to take it offline to maintain it, to evaluate it. And this is a plan to put in some kind of redundant pipeline so we could do that. And we looked at some alternatives. One was a pipe that was the same size, parallel. The other one was a smaller pipeline that we could just use during dry weather. The bigger pipeline could be used at any time of the year. And the third alternative was putting in a pump station and pumping it up through Navy Yard City. So the the preferred alternatives were the parallel pipelines. We thought those were more useful. And these are very high level memos. Decisions aren't going to be made from these in terms of or immediately, but they just help us get our head around, how to proceed. So next. Some of the other items that we talked about, or I'll talk about here. Public comment is ongoing. There's only been one comment so far. And it was from me. It was me testing the system to see that it worked. So you can send me an email. My email is on there, or you can go through a comment form. It's on the City of Bremerton website. Go to the City of Bremerton projects. You'll see wastewater comp plan. You can click on a box that'll take you to the different chapters, or you can contact me. I can provide you the information of where to get that. So it's open for public review right now. So, and we talked about it. The mayor talked about it in his mayor's report. It was on BCAT, and then it was part of the Bremerton Blast, and it's on the City of Bremerton Public Works Facebook page. We purchased some sewer modeling software as part of this as part of this update. And we've never had a sewer model before. We've had a model for water for years. So this will be an opportunity for us to understand our system, and as it grows, we'll be able to look at flows out of the system and evaluate it continuously. And then I wanted to mention the Puget Sound Net Nutrient General Permit, which is a permit that was came into effect on January 1st, 2022. And ecology is still wrapped up in not doing this. This permit is still wrapped up in the legal process. There's been stays and appeals, and we continue to submit our report that we have to submit every March 30th. The latest draft came in from our consultant HDR, and we continue to send it to ecology every year. I looked at some of the costs, and we've spent about $200,000 on this permit so far, but $130,000 of it was funded by a grant. So, and that's for studies and looking at the plant in different ways we could maybe use some of our existing processes to provide treatment. But ultimately, one day we're going to have to implement some of these large-scale treatment processes if this moves ahead, this permit. And then uncertainty about the funding sources for crosstown pipeline and PSIC improvements, just because these are big projects. We assume that we might be able to get a grant for the crosstown pipeline because it's so it's a critical resource for the Navy too. All the Navy sewage goes into the crosstown pipeline, and we have a grant right now for the Central Bremerton Force Main from the Navy for $7 million. And then PSIC improvements, we in our 20-year forecast, we saw that as being funded by external sources, private money, but because it's so expensive, that the funding for that is uncertain. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. So this is an information only item. The council will not be obviously voting on this tonight. In fact, according to the schedule, we'll be voting on it in the July-August 25 timeframe. However, we could do Mr. Davis a solid and have a public comment. Does anybody want to talk about this or ask any questions? Mr. Camacho, come on up, please.
Jose Camacho, Friends of Smith Cove. When I walk around the park that's a block away from my home, I see doggy bags, and those doggy bags are there. So when people walk their dogs and their dog takes a poop, they can put the poop in the bag and dispose of it where it doesn't pollute Smith Cove or the Sailor's Sea. It's a very common sense thing to do. However, the city is persecuting the homeless and continues to refuse to provide them with public toilets. If you're unhoused, you either have to be arrested or poop outside. It's bizarre to me. This is a standard of civilization. Across the world, cities have public toilets. The UN says sanitation is a human right. Perversely, this is a big deal for the city of Bremerton. So I don't believe that this plan has anything about public toilets. I've been told the mayor is deeply adamant that this will never happen, right? So we are working on a shelter at the moment. I would bet that does not include off-site public toilets. There seems to be a connection between the city's servility to the developer cartel, bright, shiny buildings, high rises, Yahoo, the New Seattle. A connection between that and the idea that, God forbid, we should have to see poverty-stricken people. Better to keep them in the dark or drive them out of the city. So it's completely bizarre and inhumane to me. We've seen Rock the Block. They're like the special ops of the homeless. I've seen their stuff. I've seen them on the street. My partner has helped a homeless lady who's driving around in a car that's probably going to break down. She has to maneuver through her day to find a toilet she can use. And she's ill. So until your wastewater plan provides for public toilets, as far as I'm concerned, that's a sham. Great. So if you're housed, if you have money, if you're a regular person, cool. But if you are one of the rising number of homeless, you're out of luck. We should provide public toilets for these people. I've been homeless. I've pooped in railroad stations. I've pooped on railroad tracks. In my Public Record Act inspections, I've gone to DCD records of a high rise. And in those records, weirdly, was an incident report. They arrested a homeless man. He had a pile of poop in his sleeping spot. Why would DCD have that record?
Thank you, Mr. Camacho.
My name is Robin Weldon, and I would like to incorporate everything Mr. Camacho said. The thing is, without public bathrooms, besides it, criminalizing and dehumanizing people that can no longer afford to live inside in the city of Bremerton because of hyper gentrification and favoritism for developers. That fecal matter is in the streets. People have to go every day. You can't criminalize somebody for something that is a regular bodily function. So that instead of sewers, that fecal matter goes into our storm drains. It goes right out into Smith Cove. It goes right out into the Port Washington Narrows. And again, like Mr. Camacho said, it is a UN human right. It is considered a human right to have public bathrooms and sanitation, to be able to wash your hands. People are not treated as human beings here. They're dehumanized by cruelty, just cruelty. And another thing, $100,000 is our median income in this city. I guess it's a different people than the majority of people I know. But it's really hard to pay those prices. The sewer prices keep going up.
Ms. Weldon, could you address the council, please?
Sorry, it's just hard.
Yeah, I know.
So right up to the side. I don't like it here. I like to actually be.
I agree with you, but for tonight.
Okay, anyway, that is my statement. I got all the way through it this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Weldon. Go ahead, Mr. Davis. You'd like to comment?
I just wanted to clarify that median income was 74,000. It wasn't the 100. Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Kathy Lustig again. with regards to the sewer, I do have a few questions, concerns, like the 430
So
million.
Ms. Lufton, again,
Oh,
if you could
sorry.
just address the council, Mr. Davis listening, and when, after you're done
Then
talking,
he'll come
he'll
up,
come
okay.
up. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. It's kind of hard to, yeah, it's odd. But so my concern is that 430 million over the next 20 years that you want to pay for sewer. Does that include Enitai? That's one thing. Because one thing that I saw in the little bit that I've been able to read in the proposed comp plan stuff is that it appeared to me that any kind of sewer extensions in the UGA it's written in your comp plan that developers are going to pay for that. Is that right? That I'm not sure if I have not been able to really read that at length yet, but I have some concerns about that. As for one of the sewer line extensions that was proposed to Enitai, initially it was 10 million. Then I heard it was 18 million. And our own engineer says it's more like 28 million. And that's just to go from Perry up the hill. That's a lot of money to go for just that short distance. What, 4,000 feet? I think it was. So I have some concerns about that is, we really shouldn't be, I think you already know that it's not really feasible to put sewer in Enitai because of the slopes. And it's always constantly moving, lots of landslides in the area. It just really is not feasible. And to do it there will cost too much money. And as far as in the wastewater comp plan, one of my questions is you have like the service area with, I think, a proposed sewer line going from 30th down to Jacobson that runs on a steep slope on top of Enitai Creek, which is constantly very steep slopes. It's eroding all the time. I've walked that area and I've seen a lot of the landslides that are going on all along there. I've collected all the parcel by parcel, all the geotech reports on people that are trying to build along there. I don't know how you could possibly put a sewer line down there and have it and then issue a DNS on it, a determination of non-significance. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm kind of hoping I can get some answers on that. And that's just my initial comments that I have, what I've
Thank
read.
you, Ms. Lufton. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis, do you see an opportunity to answer any of those questions or comments at this time?
Yes, Editai is not included within that budget. None of those new service areas that we had previously included in the 2014 comp plan are included as part of that budget. That forecast, we show how, if we did sewer, a potential way to sewer, that's part of the Trenton Avenue Basin, but we don't show any types of funding sources for that. We would assume it would be private unless we were directed otherwise by the council or the city.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Sorensen, do we have anyone online for public comment on this item?
No.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public? I wish to comment. Go ahead. Wait, I'm sorry, Ms. Lufton. Sorry. So he's not obligated to answer every question. It's just if he feels like there's an opportunity to answer, that's fine.
This is a great day for bathrooms. I love this. I just want some clarification because I have sat through so many different comp plans here in these council chambers. And every single time it seems like public bathrooms aren't part of it. But if I've ever seen a comp plan that public bathrooms should be part of, it would be wastewater. But I just wanted to check, because he would know the rules better than I would of how the comp plan for wastewater gets put up and could bathrooms be part of it? Just fantasy wise, we're not talking budget. I'm not asking for any of that, although I think we already approved some budget for public bathrooms. that maybe could go to wastewater comp plan if that's a place where we could talk about it, because they would be treating, right? That would be wastewater. So that's my question. It's just, do public bathrooms fit into, in theory, a wastewater comp plan? Thank you.
Mr. Davis, do you feel comfortable answering that question at this time, or does it require further research from Public Works?
Our plan looks at the collection system and the wastewater treatment plant. That's, I think that's more of a policy type thing. So.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else? Go ahead, Ms. Long.
I don't know if this adds to the clarification for a lot of people, but I was there when the sewer plant was being proposed, and the sewer plant was built too big to really operate properly, and it was built to be a closed system. But we have sewers that put water into our system. That's why when we have heavy rains, it overflows at the pump stations because it's not a closed system. So people that do go to the bathroom on the sidewalks or in the gutters or whatever, and it goes into the drains, it will eventually probably go to the sewer plant if all that water is going there, or if it's just going to a pump station. I'm not sure the potential routes that it would take. But I do think that as a community, it wouldn't hurt if the city could provide a few more public restrooms in certain places where there's high density people that need it. I know that the Haddon Park is going to have a nice restroom, which I think is fabulous. Families take their little children down there, and little children, they have to go if they're there at the park for an hour or something, so they're going to have a bathroom now. They didn't have one. And so I think that's really a generous thing for the city to provide for people and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Long. All right, anyone else? No. So I'll close this meeting, this item. Now we'll turn to the council for council reports. This is an opportunity for council members to provide an update on any issues or events taking place in their district, announce any events they've recently attended or plan to attend, or to speak on any other city-related topic. Since it's the first council meeting of the night, we'll start with a Council District 1 member who's online tonight, Ms. Jennifer Chamberlain. Councilmember Chamberlain, the floor is yours.
Hello, I'm sorry I couldn't be with you tonight. I'm in Alaska watching the aurora borealis. Actually, I'm not. I'm just feeling a little under the weather. I've got a couple of slides of some community events coming up. And here's the first one. It's back again. The Warren Avenue Bridge cleanup, hosted at starting at Cafe Perfetto, starting at 8:30. You get a donut, you get a cup of coffee, you get a really cool t-shirt. The county provides cleanup materials, and this is going to be kind of a busy day. The neighborhood cleanup, and it goes beyond the Warren Avenue Bridge. They go to other places in the neighborhood, all over District 1 and a little bit of 2. But the next slide is another event. So I'm going to be hosting our first Stephenson Canyon walking group. And this is just an opportunity for people to come and explore Stephenson Canyon in a group. All ages are welcome. Just be prepared for some elevation, some stairs, occasional foliage hazards. This is kind of a rain or shine event. However, if we have some pretty crazy winds like we've had in the past, they will be we'll be postponing. But we'll meet at 10:30 at the 2800 Birch Street, which is where our city greenhouses are. And I look forward to walking the canyon with some folks. That's it for slides. I just want to say thank you to those folks who have participated in public recognition and who offer their comments about the different items we have on our agenda. I really appreciate, especially when the most valuable part of public feedback is when I can see something from a new perspective. And so thank you. Please keep coming back. And that is all for my report tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Fry.
Yes, thank you, Dave. I think I've got some slides. Before we get to that, I want to congratulate our council president, Younger, who just retired from his job.
Not from this job.
Congratulations, Eric. And
Thank you.
he's not retiring from us yet, and we might not let him at the end of the year. So with that, Dave, do you have them?
You have a placeholder, but there's nothing in here for you.
Oh, they were sent to city council. Okay, darn. Well, I know what they were, so I'll just speak about them. I had a great picture of Bremerton fire trucks about a block away from my house this last week. A house caught on fire, and I could see it from my window. And being the curious person that I am, I went out and I was really impressed with Bremerton Fire Department's response. They were quick to the scene. You could tell they knew exactly what they were doing. And although I know that the inside of that home is no longer habitable, and it happened to be the home of an elementary school teacher at View Ridge. So it brought to home, kind of literally, the need for our emergency services. And I've been on public safety committee since I joined the council, been chairing it for the last couple of years. And my own experience with domestic violence certainly is part of my support for public safety. Emergency services is at the core of what a city must provide for its citizens. And as we get into our comp plan more and more deeply, Bill, I have to tell you, thank you so much for that. Your presentations are so easily understood by lay people like me. And I also really appreciate the fiscal impact aspect of it because we have to plan for this. As our population is going to increase, the need for emergency services is going to increase. And I am anxiously awaiting the projections for what that is going to be. I'm not holding out hope that any developer fees or anything like that are going to be adequate to pay for that. We're looking at a budget deficit now. I'm also looking forward to hearing from Finance Committee where we are, because I don't really know where we are right now financially. We knew we were projecting a deficit, a substantial deficit. I lose sleep over those things. And as we're looking more and more at comp plan and exciting, population increases and development and all of that, I have to ask the hard question: if we can't afford to pay for what we're doing now, how are we going to pay for all these increased services? And so it's my responsibility, I believe, as the current chair of public safety, to keep that on our radar. We're going to need to increase funding. Roy Runyon actually sent council a great book from MSRC, I always get that confused, about how we fund things. What are the choices? What are the options out there? And I think we need to study that, because we're either going to need to increase income, like what is proposed in sewer fees. We're going to either need to increase income, or we're going to need to cut some services. I don't think the public wants us to cut emergency services. And yet, those are the deliberations that are coming to us. What are the choices that we're going to make around this? And so I look forward to those discussions. We need to keep that on the radar. And I really hope that we get to those figures soon so that we can start doing those projections. So Bill, thank you for that. I hope that every element of that comprehensive plan has a fiscal impact element and planning for how we're going to raise that money. Because that's what our job is to make sure to be fiscally responsible with the city. And then the only other thing that I would like to say is I'm looking forward to the St. Patrick's Day parade coming up, Councillor Coughlin. I love parades. It's a little girl in me that comes out. I bring my grandchildren. We're all in green. The mayor and his wife Sunny look spectacular on St. Patty's Day. So I hope you all come out. I'm encouraging all council to get involved. I have invited Christine Grenier, who's our legislative assistant. I hope that's okay. But I invited her to walk with us. Anybody's invited. So it's a great day for Bremerton. And Jennifer, I'll be at Stevenson Canyon. The parade doesn't start until 2 o'clock that afternoon. So we're good.
Awesome.
With that, that's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Coughlin.
All right, thank you. Before my slides, I also wrote down to thank Bill Davis for excellent presentation and thank you for doing the deep dive research on some of our questions and answering them and just for all the excellent work you always do. I also wanted to thank the public who is here and for speaking up. I'm really grateful. I know sometimes we may have a different interpretation of the facts, but I think we have a lot of core fundamental values that are 99% in alignment. And so I appreciate the chance to have that dialogue and that discourse and to hear directly. I'm actually I'm proud of this council for keeping public recognition and having moved it intentionally towards the start of the meeting. I've talked to council members in other cities and I know how other boards operate. And a lot of them, they kind of tell me, they say, oh God, you have that at the start. We have it at the very end. And I don't think that's right. And so I'm glad we have kept it there. And some places don't even have open public recognition. It has to only be in an agenda item. And so we've kept that where we want to hear anything that's on your mind, whether it's on the agenda or not. And I really do appreciate that. And so I thank when people speak up. Thank you for speaking up about the recent hate speech and flyers. That has to be talked about because if we don't talk about it, it's normalizing it and we can't allow it to be normal. It is abnormal. It is detestable. And I'm proud of this council for releasing a statement in obvious opposition to hate speech, along many other things. And there is the First Amendment, which we have to respect, but we don't have to respect the people who create hate in our community. And on lighter notes, I love the history on the skateboards. I volunteer part-time as a director for a local history museum, so that is fascinating. And let's get together, see if we can draft a quick ordinance, because I think, as I mentioned before, there is a bit of an incongruity here where you can have bikes on sidewalks anywhere in Washington. You can have motorized scooters. You can have a lot of different forms of transportation on the sidewalk and the street, but not skateboards. And there are some differences. There's no brakes on skateboards, so understand that. There's other activities that go along with it. But yeah, let's sit down and see what we can do there. And maybe I'll touch base after this meeting real quick. And then just wanted to say thanks to the Downtown Bremerton Association for hosting their volunteer summit the other week. There were about 8 or 10 organizations there, and it was a really great turnout. So they were actively recruiting and saying, hey, if you want to volunteer in our city, here are tons of organizations that you can volunteer for, and including some of the city was there. So that was great to see. And then I'll go to my slides. Wrap up quick. Oh yeah, and I wanted to give a thanks to my fellow council members Mockler and Chamberlain for a great time in Olympia. Again, why we were not here 2 weeks ago at the council meeting is we were down there for a Association of Washington Cities conference. Really great to talk to people from all sorts of other cities, run into them and ask them, how are you tackling this? How are you dealing with this? And I'll just say in response to a lot of the federal changes going on, everybody's scrambling. So. But really great to also talk to our legislatures, advocate for resources to Bremerton, advocate for Bremerton getting the best it can. Next slide. I saw this coming up at the Roxy Theater downtown. is a mountain film festival. So really cool that Bremerton is home to a film festival dedicated to mountains. I didn't get a chance to talk to you about this before, Michael, but anyway, a lot out there, really cool. And very last slide is, yes, St. Patrick's Day Parade. So we'll all be out there, look forward to it. Such a great little local parade, and thanks to city staff and administration and our Downtown Bremerton Association for putting this on. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember and Vice President Revelowski.
Hi, Dave. I think I have a slide. Thank you. So tomorrow I'm having a town hall meeting up at the Bremerton Food Line. And Joe Crane from the Affordable Housing Consortium is going to come and speak to us about the hybrid shelter that he and other community members have been working diligently putting together. So I'm looking forward to that update, and I hope anybody and everybody comes. If you're able to, please bring some non-perishable food, because we are meeting at the Bremerton Food Line. And if you haven't been there since they've remodeled in the past year or so, you need to come. It is such a beautiful, welcoming place now. So that's tomorrow, 5 o'clock at Bremerton Food Line. That's at 1600 12th Street. And another thing that's coming up with the Bremerton Food Line, April 22nd, is their Bridging the Gap breakfast, which is their biggest fundraiser of the year. I'm actually a table captain, so anybody who wants to come sit at my table, you can sign up and sit there or sit anywhere you want. But I really encourage anybody who can to attend. It's from 7 to, they end at 9 a.m. sharp. So people with real jobs can still get to work on time. Also, March 11th, which is next week, is Kitsap's Big Give. And it's a great way to find all your favorite organizations. You can give small amounts to a lot of different organizations, or big amounts to a lot of different organizations. This is an incredible way that the whole Kitsap community tries to fund a lot of needed services throughout our community. And then, of course, I'll be at the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and I hope everybody in the community can show up. It's a lot of fun. I hope we have as good a weather as we did last year, because it was really nice. And I really appreciate the way Mr. Davis puts together a presentation. It was great. I think the majority of people actually can understand that there's a lot of information. I do have a lot of questions that I'll be emailing you. So I look forward to that. And I really appreciate all the public comments and people bringing things to our attention. I'm sorry we can't, the way the meetings are set up, it's not a back and forth dialogue with the public, but we all take a lot of notes. And if you can send us emails, that would be great. You can send it to us singly, jane.rebelowski at Seattle. Sorry, I used to work for Seattle at ci.bremerton.wa.us, or to the entire city council. You can send it to city.council@ci.bremerton.wa.us. But again, thank you for coming tonight. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Goodnow.
Not really much of a report. I missed last week because I've been sick, so I won't share the gory details. But I had more than one thing that's going around, so it wasn't too pleasant. But I do want to thanks for the presentations. Thanks for the public input. I'd love to talk more about skateboards sometimes too. And thank you, I think, Mr. Long, for coming, bringing that up. It's definitely a moment we're going through with some kind of heightened stuff, and hopefully those are folks that are not from our community it's happened before where they've come through. And there was even a piece recently in our Friends of the Kitsap Sun that was pretty ugly. And they've even gone back and said that they probably shouldn't even run it. And that wasn't from a community member either. But, as a community, we need to stick together and make this the place we want to live. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Mochler.
First slide, please, Dave. Mr. Sorensen. Okay, so the upcoming town hall on March 10th will be focusing on affordable housing. Sarah Lyman of Community Development Block Grant will give a presentation starting at 5-ish. The town halls are a place where you can come and have a back and forth. Email is, of course, another. I am Anna.Mockler at our new email, which is way shorter and easier to remember, bremertonwa.gov. It's much easier. And why, look, it's right here on this slide. Next slide, please. This District 6 Town Hall is open to everyone. So yesterday, a hybrid urgent care emergency care shelter opened in my district, an improvement in my district. It's known as the place where the QFC used to be. And I'm pretty sure that's its official address. It's just west of the Rite Aid. And I was fortunate enough, thanks to my colleague, Councillor Coughlin, who gave me a heads up to learn that there was a grand opening on Sunday. So I stopped by the grand opening and they gave me the tour and pastries. This is a typical room. Next slide, please. This is part of the in-house lab. In-house lab, yes. Next slide, please. And I am Council District 6, so I'll just stop right there. In total, there are 12 beds. There is one for triage, one for critical care, one for behavioral health, one for isolation if avert the fate, we should get a measles victim, for example, and one for OB/GYN. They also have a CAT scan in addition to the in-house lab. It is a multi-acronym CHI, Virginia Mason, Franciscan, and it's in addition to the residency next door. So it's, you can come in for an emergency and it might be able to be taken care of at urgent care. This is something we have so way needed. So I'm very, very happy about it. I really appreciated all of the comments on wastewater and stormwater and preserving our clean water, both in the Salish Sea that surrounds us and in the watershed forest that gives us our pure drinkable water. So thank you all for that. I thought I'd just throw in that, by the way, the Porta Sands wouldn't go to the wastewater treatment plan. They go to a special place that King County has. It has to go for hazardous materials. I wasn't here to give a report 2 weeks ago, so I'm very sorry that I did not get an opportunity to honor Black History Month, which is February. So in the few minutes that are allotted to me, I would very much like to thank all of the people who persevered and kept on persevering and are continuing to persevere. Thank you. And moving on to this month, which is National Women's Month. Also, a lot of the persevering. People who are not white men, are having a tough time right now. And those people make up 33% of the United States population. So I am echoing many of my fellow counselors. Let's really take care of each other as best we possibly can. Thank you all for participating in this and engaging in this. And it hasn't been mentioned yet, but the community engagement manager will be starting this week. Yay. And for the rest of it, may you be safe. May you be safe and free to love each other. There you go.
All right, thank you. So for my report, I'm going to address my comments to Mr. Bradford. Mr. Bradford, you've been before this council probably 4, 5, 6 times on the issue of whether skateboarding on sidewalks should continue to be prohibited. And you allege that we don't enforce the law. I don't know if that's true or not, and I didn't want to bring this in public and put our public safety committee chair on the spot, but Councilmember Coughlin brought it up. Councilmember Goodnow brought it up, and I know this council well enough that I think they're going to support my request. I think you'll agree with me, it's not the most pressing issue facing the city. However, tonight you testified, I guess if you call this testifying, that you spent a couple hours and you've gone through the microfiche, and you've done your research. And again, I don't know if skateboarding on sidewalks should no longer be prohibited, but I think you've worked hard enough. You shouldn't have had to work this hard for the council to consider this formally. So I'm going to ask our Public Safety Committee Chair to take this up, and I'm getting a head nod. I am not going to promise you that we're going to call this the Alden Bradford ordinance, because if it's successful, it will no longer be an ordinance. But I think you have, the council has listened, we heard you, and we're going to look at it. So thank you for that. With that, that concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you and good night.